Bread, rice, potatoes, pasta, tortillas, oats, noodles, and beans are the foods many people with diabetes are told to fear, avoid, or remove completely. And on paper, that advice sounds simple. If carbohydrates raise blood sugar, just stop eating carbohydrates. But in real life, that is not how most people eat, live, celebrate, or stay consistent long-term. These foods are not random snacks for many families. They are staples. They are part of culture, tradition, budget, comfort, and everyday meals. So telling someone to give up rice forever, never eat potatoes again, or completely remove bread may work for a few weeks, but for most people it eventually breaks down. The better question is not, how do I never eat carbohydrates again? The better question is, how do I eat carbohydrates in a way that does not send my blood sugar on a roller coaster? Because the truth is, many people with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes can still enjoy carbohydrates if they understand timing, food structure, food pairing, processing, movement, and meal order. The goal is not to make carbs the enemy. The goal is to stop eating them in a way that overwhelms your system. In this video, I want to walk you through practical, science-based strategies that can flatten glucose spikes after meals, improve insulin sensitivity over time, and make eating feel more realistic. And please remember, even though I am a physician, I am not your physician. So talk with your own doctor before changing your diet, medications, supplements, insulin, or diabetes plan. Let us start with one of the most powerful tools most people have never heard of: resistant starch. Normally, when you eat starchy foods like freshly cooked rice, potatoes, pasta, bread, or anything made from finely milled flour, your digestive enzymes break those starches down into glucose. That glucose enters the bloodstream, blood sugar rises, insulin has to respond, and if this keeps happening repeatedly and aggressively, insulin resistance can worsen. Over time, the pancreas has to work harder and harder. And in diabetes, that system is already under stress. But resistant starch behaves differently. Your small intestine does not digest it easily. Instead of breaking down quickly into glucose, it passes farther into the digestive tract and reaches the large intestine, where your gut bacteria ferment it. That fermentation produces short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate, supporting the lining of the colon, reducing inflammation, and improving insulin sensitivity. So resistant starch is technically a carbohydrate, but it acts more like a fiber in the body. It feeds beneficial bacteria instead of dumping glucose into your bloodstream all at once. One of the easiest ways to create more resistant starch is to cook a starchy food, cool it, and then reheat it later. This works with foods like rice, potatoes, pasta, and some grains. When starch is cooked, the starch granules gelatinize. But when that food cools, some of the starch molecules realign into a more crystalline structure. This process is called retrogradation, and it makes part of the starch more resistant to digestion. When you reheat the food, not all of that resistant starch disappears. So the same rice or potato can create a gentler glucose response after it has been cooked, cooled, and reheated compared with eating it freshly cooked. This does not mean unlimited portions, but it gives you a tool. If you meal prep, this is easy. Cook rice, potatoes, or pasta ahead of time, cool them in the refrigerator, then reheat them when you eat. The texture may be a little different, but the metabolic benefit can be worth it. You can also lean into foods that naturally contain more resistant starch, such as beans, lentils, chickpeas, peas, oats, barley, and slightly green bananas. These foods bring fiber, minerals, and slower digestion, which makes them very different from white bread, pastries, instant cereals, or chips. The second principle is food pairing. Carbohydrates behave very differently depending on what you eat with them. Eating a bowl of plain white rice by itself is not the same as eating rice with beans, vegetables, olive oil, and protein. The total carbohydrate may look similar on paper, but the glucose curve can be completely different. Protein slows digestion, increases satiety, and changes how glucose enters the bloodstream. Fat can also slow gastric emptying, meaning food leaves the stomach more gradually. Fiber adds bulk, slows absorption, and feeds the gut microbiome. This is why people say not to eat naked carbs. A naked carb is a carbohydrate eaten by itself without protein, fat, or fiber to slow it down. Crackers alone, toast alone, cereal alone, juice alone, fries alone, or a plain bagel alone can spike glucose quickly. But when you dress the carb with the right partners, the response becomes smoother. Rice with beans is better than rice alone because beans add protein, fiber, and resistant starch. Potatoes with olive oil, Greek yogurt, eggs, fish, chicken, beans, or a big salad will usually behave better than potatoes eaten alone. Bread with eggs and avocado is different from bread with jam. Oats with chia seeds, nuts, and Greek yogurt are different from instant sweetened oatmeal. This does not make portions irrelevant, but it makes the meal more glucose-friendly. A simple rule is this: if you eat carbohydrates, anchor them with protein, add fiber, and include a healthy fat. That combination turns a fast-burning meal into a slower, more stable meal. The third strategy is adding acid to meals. Vinegar, lemon juice, lime juice, and fermented foods can reduce the glucose impact of a meal. Acid appears to slow the breakdown of starch and may improve how muscles respond to insulin. Vinegar may also affect liver glucose production, which matters because your blood sugar does not only come from food. Your liver can release glucose into the bloodstream too. This is why adding vinegar-based dressing to a salad before a starchy meal, squeezing lemon over food, adding lime to beans, or including fermented vegetables can be useful. You do not need to drink huge amounts of vinegar, and you should be careful if you have reflux, stomach ulcers, kidney disease, dental enamel issues, or take certain medications. But using vinegar or citrus in normal food amounts is a practical tool. A salad with olive oil and vinegar before pasta, lemon over rice and fish, lime over beans, or fermented vegetables with a meal can all help. The fourth strategy is food order. This one is so simple that people underestimate it. The order you eat the same foods can change your glucose response. If you start a meal with bread, chips, juice, rice, or dessert, glucose can hit the bloodstream quickly. But if you eat vegetables and protein first, then eat the starchier carbohydrate. Later, the stomach releases a slower mixture into the intestines, and glucose absorption becomes more gradual. Same foods, different order, different curve. This matters especially at restaurants because restaurants often bring the fastest carbs first. Bread baskets, chips, nachos, crackers, and sweet drinks arrive before the salad or main course. That setup practically guarantees a glucose spike before the real meal even starts. Instead, flip the order. Start with protein and vegetables. Eat the salad, eggs, chicken, fish, tofu, beans, or vegetables first. Then, if you still want the bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, or tortilla, eat it later in the meal. In people with type 2 diabetes and in healthy adults using continuous glucose monitors have shown that eating protein and vegetables before carbohydrates can significantly reduce post-meal glucose and insulin spikes. This is not a complicated diet. It is a behavior. You can use it today without changing the food itself. The fifth strategy is walking after meals. This may be the most underrated glucose-lowering tool available. After you eat, glucose begins entering the bloodstream. If you sit on the couch or go straight back to your desk, your muscles are mostly inactive. But if you walk even lightly, your muscles begin pulling glucose out of the bloodstream and using it for energy. This can lower the post-meal spike. You do not need to do a hard workout. A 10-minute walk after a meal can make a real difference. Cleaning the kitchen, climbing stairs, doing light chores. The key is timing. Movement works best when it happens soon after eating, when glucose is rising. Walking is especially practical because almost anyone can scale it to their ability. One reason walking works so well is that it activates the muscles in your legs, including the soleus muscle in the calf. The soleus is built for endurance. It contains many slow-twitch fibers, which means it can contract for long periods without tiring quickly. When you use those muscles after eating, they act like glucose sponges. They help clear sugar from the blood without requiring the pancreas to do all the work alone. If you eat your largest carbohydrate meal at dinner, that is the most important time to move. 10 to 15 minutes after dinner can be more useful than promising yourself you will do a huge workout tomorrow. Small movement done at the right time beats perfect intentions. The sixth principle is choosing carbs based on structure and processing. Not all carbs are the same. A whole oat groat, steel-cut oats, instant oatmeal, oat flour, and a sweetened oatmeal cookie all come from oats, but your body does not process them the same way. The more a carbohydrate is ground, puffed, refined, stripped, or turned into flour, the faster it digests. Fine flour is like sawdust in a fire. It burns fast and hot. Intact grains and high-fiber carbohydrates are more like logs. They burn slower and steadier. White bread, crackers, cereal, pastries, chips, instant oats, and many packaged snacks hit the bloodstream quickly because the work of digestion has already been done by the factory. Your enzymes can access the starch almost immediately. In contrast, beans, lentils, barley, steel-cut oats, whole fruit, non-starchy vegetables, and intact grains require more digestion. They contain fiber, structure, and often resistant starch that slows the glucose rise. So instead of asking only, how many carbs are in this? Also ask, how processed is this carbohydrate? Does it still have fiber? Does it still look like food? Would I have to chew it? Is it flour or is it intact? These questions matter. If you follow a low-carb diet, you still need to think about fiber. Fiber is one of the most important parts of carbohydrate-containing foods. Removing all high-fiber foods can backfire for gut health, cholesterol, satiety, and long-term metabolic health. For many people, the best approach is not zero carbs. It is fewer refined carbs and more high-fiber, slow-digesting carbs in the right portions. The seventh strategy is portion and personalization. Some people can handle a half cup of rice with protein and vegetables and barely spike. Others spike from a small portion. Diabetes is personal. Insulin resistance, muscle mass, sleep, stress, medications, time of day, gut health, and activity level all change the response. If you use a continuous glucose monitor or check finger stick readings, you can learn your own patterns. You may discover that potatoes cooled and reheated work better than bread, or that beans are fine but cereal is a disaster, or that a walk after dinner changes everything. That information is more useful than a generic food list. A practical starting portion for starch might be a quarter of the plate, paired with half a plate of non-starchy vegetables and a palm-sized portion of protein, then adjusted based on your readings and goals. The eighth strategy is avoiding late-night eating. Your body does not handle glucose the same way at every hour of the day. Insulin sensitivity follows a circadian rhythm, and for many people, glucose tolerance is worse in the evening than earlier in the day, late at night. Melatonin rises, and melatonin can reduce insulin secretion. That means the same food eaten late may keep glucose higher for longer than if you ate it earlier. This is why late-night snacks can be especially damaging for people with diabetes or insulin resistance. Even if the meal is not extremely high in carbohydrates, too bedtime can worsen overnight glucose and interfere with sleep, and poor sleep then worsens insulin resistance the next day. It becomes a loop. A simple rule is to finish your last meal at least 3 hours before bed when possible. If you need an evening snack for medical reasons, medication timing, or hypoglycemia prevention, follow your doctor's guidance. But for most people, closing the kitchen earlier is a powerful move. Eat dinner earlier, keep it balanced, and then let your body digest before sleep. The ninth strategy is stacking the tools. No single trick has to do everything. Resistant starch helps a little. Food pairing helps. Vinegar helps. Food order helps. Walking helps. Earlier dinners help. Better carb quality helps. Together, those tools can flatten the curve. So let us put this into real meals. If you want rice, cook it ahead, cool it, reheat it, and eat it with chicken, tofu, fish, eggs, or beans, plus vegetables and a vinegar-based sauce or lime. Eat the protein and vegetables first, then the rice, then walk for 10 minutes. If you want potatoes, boil or roast them, cool them, reheat them, and pair them with salmon, eggs, Greek yogurt, olive oil, or a large salad. If you want pasta, choose a higher fiber version if possible. Cook it al dente, cool and reheat leftovers when you can. Add protein, vegetables, olive oil, and vinegar or lemon, and keep the portion reasonable. If you want bread, choose dense, high-fiber bread instead of fluffy white bread, freeze or toast it, and eat it with eggs, avocado, tuna, chicken, or hummus instead of jam or juice. If you want oats, choose steel-cut or old-fashioned oats instead of sweetened instant oats. Add chia or flax, nuts, cinnamon, and protein. The pattern is always the same. Slow it down, pair it well, eat it later in the meal, move afterward, and avoid eating it late at night. This is how you enjoy carbohydrates without letting them control your blood sugar. And this is important emotionally too. People do not fail because they lack discipline. They often fail because the plan they were given ignores real life. A diabetes plan that says never eat your cultural foods again is usually not a plan. It is a countdown to frustration. But a plan that teaches you how to modify rice, potatoes, bread, beans, pasta, and traditional meals can last. You can still enjoy food, you can still eat with family, you can still have favorite meals. You just need to change the glucose physics of the meal. Add resistant starch, add protein, add fat, add fiber, add acid. Change the order. Move after eating. Eat earlier. Choose intact carbs over processed carbs. Use your glucose readings as feedback, not judgment. The goal is not perfection. The goal is smoother curves, lower insulin burden, better energy, fewer crashes, and improved metabolic health over time. If you are taking insulin or medications that can cause low blood sugar, be extra careful. Dietary changes, exercise after meals, and reduced carbohydrate intake can change medication needs quickly, so you need medical guidance. But for many people, these strategies are safe, practical, and empowering when done thoughtfully. Carbs do not have to be a blood sugar disaster. They just need structure. And finally, please remember, I am not your doctor, and this is not personal medical advice. Do not stop medications, change insulin, adjust diabetes drugs, start supplements, or make major diet changes without talking to your own doctor, endocrinologist, diabetes educator, pharmacist, or qualified healthcare professional. This is especially important if you have diabetes, kidney disease, heart disease, gastroparesis, pregnancy, a history of hypoglycemia, or you take insulin, sulfonylureas, or any medication that affects blood sugar. Use this information as education, monitor your response, and work with your healthcare team to make the safest plan for your body.